much. I would yield to Mr. Norman of South Carolina.
Thank you. Joe, good to see you here.
Nice to see you, Mr.
Thank y'all
Norman.
for coming. I keep saying there's no proof that, illegals are being not only registered, but they're doing it illegally because they're illegal. Is it not true that Pennsylvania admitted a few years ago 10,000 non-citizens were registered to vote? Is it not true that Texas had a similar problem where nearly 100,000 non-citizens were allowed to vote? Is it not true that Illinois implemented automatic voter registration several years ago and hundreds of non-citizens ended up on the rolls? Is it not true that Ohio had upwards of 100, I think, in one precinct of non-citizens? Is it not true that a Georgia audit found more than 1,600 non-citizens had attempted to register to vote? Virginia had nearly 1,500. When you look at what's happening in this country with the illegals, Congressman Stiles, why is this president allowing what we know of is 13 million plus in this country without any barriers? Why do you think, what goals does this administration have?
I have a lot of questions on a lot of actions.
Could it be registering to vote and including them in the census?
Could be.
What consequence, as the voter, when you register to vote today at the bottom, you fill the questionnaire out. At the bottom, I am a U.S. citizen. You check that. What consequences are there if you fraudulently check the box and then you're not?
That is a federal penalty. But what we're noting is the states cannot require additional proof of citizenship. So if we look at HAVA, the federally passed Help America Vote Act, and then we analyze the 2013 decision, Arizona versus Intertribal, which says that federal preemption prevents states from actually requiring or looking further after that box has been checked. The concern is states don't have an ability today to confirm citizenship beyond the self-attestation that you just noted. And so this bill provides an ability for states to do that. Not only that, it requires it to make sure that U.S. elections are for U.S. citizens.
So this is just more of a verification that if you check that box, there's a way to have consequences for those who are doing it fraudulently.
Not only that, but it's actually a check that box has been, that there's confirmation that you are a U.S. citizen rather than simply allowing an individual to check a box.
Well, what in South Carolina, we had noticed that there were 3 plane loads of illegals that came into Spartanburg County that were going in the Medicaid, the government offices, and they're giving them a registration. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but to verify that they are who they say they are, what we're doing is involving the Secretary of State, and we're doing this as we speak. There are 2 statutes that have never been used that we're citing in this. And we're going to the Homeland Security to get, and we've used the last year of new registrants. And we're going to check and see, and it's been, like this administration has in so many cases, they just don't respond. When they don't respond here, then we're going to sue them to get the information and then keep ratcheting that down. Does this, is this a stepping stone toward the verification of when you check that box, you are a registered citizen of this country?
I'd go beyond a stepping stone. I'd say that this actually provides the proof that an individual who's registering to vote is a U.S. citizen by providing one of the documentary proof mechanisms that is in this bill.
And to have secure elections, we need to verify that. I may verify that I go the speed limit, but I've got consequences if I do not. There's no consequences on this, especially with 15 million illegals in this country to begin with. Mr. Morelli, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, first I'd say, as it relates to South Carolina, aside from the federal prohibition, South Carolina law already requires individuals to be a U.S. citizen to vote not only in federal but state and local elections. And the state has numerous systems, as I understand, in place to prevent non-citizens from registering and casting a ballot. And when registering to vote, every single voter must swear under oath in South Carolina that U.S. citizens are eligible to vote and that they are a U.S. citizen. Giving false information, as I understand it, can result in substantial prison time, not for federal charges, but because it violates South Carolina statute. In addition to facing prison time potentially, South Carolina State Election Commission also conducts active audits of voter lists to ensure that non-citizens are not on the rolls. So, and as I understand it as well, the South Carolina State Elections Commission has found no evidence, and they've indicated this publicly, that non-citizens are registered to vote in the state. So I think South Carolina not only has made it their business in federal, which is already against federal law, but also at the state law to do it. And as I understand it, and I defer to you as to whether or not you have faith in the South Carolina State Election Commission, but they have published reports after doing continuous audits that there is no such, that is an activity that doesn't happen.
But we had them on the line last week. And by checking the box, that there's been no further gathering of information to make sure that that box is true, that what they say. That came from them last week. That's why it's so interesting. They're all in favor of what we're doing in South Carolina. Ms. Stiles, you have something?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Congressman Norman, is that once that box is checked by an individual, federal law with the Supreme Court interpretation actually prevents further proof of citizenship or a requirement that the box that's checked is actually validated that that individual actually is a U.S. citizen. I think I was previously said HAVA, I should have said NVRA.
NVRA,
And so
right.
when NVRA is reviewed by the Supreme Court in 2013 in Arizona versus Intertribal, what they're saying is with federal preemption that states are not able to actually go through and verify the citizenship of an individual that checks the box. And so once that box is checked, the whole step is complete. This legislation is authored by Congressman Roy, says, no, what we're going to do is actually require proof of citizenship, provide that documentary proof that the individual that checks the box is actually a U.S. citizen to further enhance the integrity of our elections.
So it's just verifying that once you check that box, you are who you say you are.
Exactly.
And there's no, in South Carolina, there hadn't been any steps taken. They were unaware of this. Now, we're going through the Homeland Security to get the information. And Stephen Miller has done a lot of work on this. And this is the two laws that he has we're making, is what we'll be using to but, you know, this Biden administration, if they really want to have honest and fair elections, let's verify it. Again, if I get caught speeding, I think I have a ticket. There's a way to verify that. It's called a meter, speed meter. But with voting and with this invasion that this president is allowing, it's criminal to not do this. And I hope other states will do the same thing. Look, thank you, Chip. Thank you for bringing this up, and look forward to supporting it. I yield back.